the bizarre, just such a bizarre feeling because it was Aaron Rodgers kind of solidified the Jets as a real team. There was the parallel to Aaron Rodgers joining a team that so desperately needed a quarterback, a lot like when Tom Brady did it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Plus, there was this kind of new Aaron Rodgers that seemed to be a real feel-good story. Right? Whatever happened in Green Bay that turned him kind of negative. I mean, you're the same place for a long time. He had been a man about town, and he had a great kind of fresh, energetic perspective. If you watched Hard Knocks, it becomes impossible. I've told people all the time, and I've said it on radio, I've never understood the pushback on people doing Hard Knocks. They find a way to make just about everybody in the show likable, especially those quarterbacks. And then if you're watching the clips on social media or even the ESPN stuff, Kevin from The Office is there. I don't know why maybe it's the curse of Jake Paul, but he shook Jake Paul's hands. I mean, he's the guy that everybody came to see, and 4 plays in, he's hurt. And whether it's a trade or a free agent signing or whatever, there's a reason why you don't. I have a friend who got a crazy deal on an '08 Mercedes SUV and doesn't have a lot of money. Okay, but the car was owned by a car guy, so everything's been kept up. Things have been replaced, all been, kept new. And look, it's still, what are we talking about, 15-year-old car. And one of the struts went on the car this past week. And he's like, man, can you believe one of the struts on the car, and this is how much the labor is, and this is how much the parts are. And there's something else that went as well. I was looking at the front hood of his car, and it was just slumped over. I was like, dude, you got to take that bad boy in. That does not look right. And he's like, I can't believe how much it is. I was like, look, it's an expensive car, can be really well made, but at some point, 15 years in, they're going to break down. I tell people all the time, we had a Infinity Q-Shape, one of those big Infinities, and we got the extended warranty, and the drivetrain was 100,000 miles, literally 0 problems with the car. You just get an oil change, and I don't even remember getting new tires. I'm sure we got new tires at some point. But I remember, once you get out of that warranty, you get to the 110, we had the car for 8 years. You get to 120,000 miles, all of a sudden, something happened with the drivetrain. Wait, what's going on with the transmission? This was the best made car. Look, at some point there is wear and tear, and things do go bad with a car. And we can sit here and go, well, Aaron Rodgers has an injury history. Not really. Not really. Broken collarbones are not an injury history. You get thrown to the ground, you break your collarbone. It takes 8 pounds of pressure to break your collarbone. That's not a rotator cuff. He had the pulled calf the one year they lost to the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game on the road. But for the most part, it's not like he's had a knee, a hip, an ankle, a back. It hasn't always been something. Look, you play football for 20 years, you're going to get dinged up. But last night he blew a tire. And it's the type of tire that's not replaceable for a year. And I don't know how you felt, I felt legitimately bad for him. But I also felt okay, he's 39. This is kind of what happens. What happens in all of our lives is at some point, Father Time wins. Father Time wins. And I don't know how legitimate Peyton Manning's injury was, but Peyton Manning at the end, his skills just faded. You started to see some slippage from Tom Brady, although an injury didn't end it. But look at so many of these guys' careers, and, if you play long enough, at some point you're going to blow a tire. At some point the transmission goes. And then you factor in he was tackled by a gigantic man. He has a 30-whatever-year-old left tackle who tried to cut block and missed, and Aaron Rodgers was supposed to get rid of the ball quicker. And he's playing on turf. There's other factors more than just age. He had a pulled calf in camp, and doctors are speculating that leads to some of this, right? The added stress and strain of the calf ends up tearing the Achilles tendon. It's similar to what we saw with Kevin Durant. But I felt bad for him last night. But, man, does that change the season. Because if you watch the Jets' defense, you're like, well, that's a real unit. And you look around, you're like, I don't like their offensive line that much, but I trust Aaron Rodgers, and they got some dudes out there that can make plays. What a massive change. And then you start to look at, selfishly as a Charger fan, I'm like, wow, I really hope they don't find somebody better than Zach Wilson by the time the Chargers play him. How many primetime games are set to be the Jets? There's all of this trickle-down effect from one guy going down. Wow. Byron, where were you? What did you think when you saw it happen?
It's funny, just like you were sitting down, my son pulled me into our front room because he wanted me to, play with the dinosaurs. And so I stepped into the front room and the game was on, and all of a sudden my phone just started blowing up. So then I rewound a couple of plays back, ignored my son for 30 seconds.
Sure.
And then and then went back to it. But yeah, so it was kind of like, I didn't realize the gravity of it just because I heard Zach Wilson's coming in. I'm like, maybe Rodgers is shook up and that he would be back. And then it just, throughout the broadcast, it just got worse. Like, it was, all right, he's being helped off. Now he needs a cart. Now he's in a walking boot. And then there are all these images on social media. But that's how I saw it last night.
Jason Stewart, what do you think? I know you've become a very, very big Aaron Rodgers fan.
Yeah, my whole thing is that as I sat there and realized kind of what it was, my whole thing was, this just sucks for the entire league, the people that watch football. I did a Google search for how many standalone games the Jets have, and I understand that NBC, I think, can flex these Sunday night games, but it's like, this changes the entire outlook for so many entities, and it's a bummer for me. It's a bummer for me because I like Aaron. I like his approach. I like his kind of I don't know what you would call him. He's a contrarian. He's interesting. He gives us interesting things to talk about, and we're just not going to have that. So if you're pro content like me, it really is devastating, and that's very selfish of me.
Yes, it is.
But it sucks. It just sucks for everybody.
Ramos, were you watching?
It's funny. I was doing something else. I looked down at my phone and I said, oh my God, it's 5:21. The game started. So let me switch over and just take a quick look. And just as I switched over, Rodgers was coming off the field with people next to him. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I realized what had happened. They showed the replays. And I was telling Jason, and I know you talk about this all the time about, do you watch something more than once? If someone gets injured. I thought it was kind of interesting, the fact that you actually see Rodgers' leg or his calf area like vibrate. If you watch it, it actually, you could tell where his Achilles just snapped. It just vibrated, and I'm like, whoa, it was very, and I agree with Jason as well. It's not good for the NFL. The Jets had a lot of praise on them, a lot of people looking at them, and they've had a tough time over the many years, and they're New York, and they finally got somebody who's going to bring all the eyes to them, and for this to happen in 3 or 4 plays, it's just bad for the NFL, and we'll see how it ends up, if he can get back to where he was at some point next season, if he even wants to come back. But yeah, it's not good for the NFL.
All right, so here's what I want to do. Do you think he plays again? Dan Byer.
Yes.
There's a very big hesitation there.
Yes.
You can expound.
Allow me. This is also something on the new pod that on the I Want Your Flex podcast went into some detail on. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. We haven't seen a guy, I believe, 40 years old with this significant of an injury try to make a return to the National Football League. But I do feel that he owes the Jets something, and so I think that he will make every effort to come back.
Jason Stewart.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he's not going to do it, and I don't see 12 months of heartache and physical pain and mental pain I don't know what the payoff is in his mind. Like, I think he'll say to himself, the payoff at the end of this isn't worth this struggle at this age, and it sucks, but I'm calling it quits. And I do need to make this caveat. 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year, you went around the room and said, is this Tom Brady's last season? I was the only one of the four of us that said yes. So maybe my opinion should be held with greater weight.
Wait a second. I didn't say it was his last season?
Correct.
Do we have audio of that?
I think I grabbed it just to show you guys, to put it in your guys' face. So maybe I'll find that.
All right, maybe you should find that one. I don't remember that. It doesn't mean it didn't occur, but Senator, I don't recall. Ramos, does he play another down?
I say he does. I am in agreement with Dan when he said that I think he feels like he owes the Jets some sort of at least work hard. And I think as an athlete, I think he has a different mentality, even at 39 years old, that he actually is really hardcore about doing this. So I do think he makes his way back. Now, I don't know if he plays for more than one season after that, but I definitely think he makes it back, yes.
Okay, so I don't think he thinks he owes the Jets, although I do think he respects the Jets and what they've built, the culture they've kind of tried to change, and the fact that it does appear by all intents and purposes that he was really involved in who they were trying to bring in on some level, right? So I do think he plays again, and I think he plays again because he likes to do things that people say he shouldn't or can't do. Right? And I can relate to that. Right? Those of us who are contrarians in life, right? And you look at his conspiracy theories on some things. He's a very thoughtful and interesting person, but a lot of the stuff that he's done is because they say you're not supposed to do that. Like, okay, I'll just show you I can by sheer force of will. And then I think there's the reality too. He did sign up for multiple years, and he's not playing this year. The rest of his body will probably feel great. He was in incredible shape. But I think he'll convince himself of, I was going to play next year anyway, and I haven't even played for the Jets. Like, I just want to do it. I just want to do it because people say I can't. It's those of you who know my favorite movie is Smokey and the Bandit. Why are we doing it, son? Because it said it couldn't be done. Jerry Reed, I think, right? Jerry Reed was a snowman?
That is correct.
Okay, Jerry.